Welcome back, friends. So today we would see what a transaction in SQL Server. Okay. So as usual, the agenda would be understanding about the transaction in SQL Server and then a practical demo. So let us first understand what is a transaction. A transaction is a single unit of work. If a transaction is successful, all of the data modification made during the transactions are committed and become a permanent part of the database. If a transaction encounters errors and must be cancelled or rolled back, then all of the data modifications are erased. So this, to understand this is very simple. That it is a unit of work, right? Within a transaction, whatever you write, whatever DML operations you perform, either they would succeed all or if any of the transaction or sorry if any of the DML statement has an issue and if it needs to be cancelled or rolled back, then everything would be rolled back, right? So everything would be undone. Okay, so this is a transaction. Okay, let us see. There are several modes of the transaction in SQL Server, right? First is an auto commit transaction. This is the default transaction mode in SQL Server. So each individual TSQL statement is considered as a different transaction. So as soon as it completes, right? And again, it is very dynamic. If statement executes successfully, then it is committed. If statement has any errors, then it is it is automatically rolled back, right? So this is called as an auto commit transaction, which is a default in SQL Server. Then comes implicit transaction. In this transaction mode, first of all, it needs to be enabled on server. After that, it starts automatically for every DML statement, but we need to explicitly use commit or rollback commands. Okay, so this is different from auto commit. Once you enabled it on an SQL server, then transaction would start automatically for each statement, right? But after that, one has to either commit or roll back depending upon whatever is the outcome of that DML statement. If it is successful, then roll back. If it is not, if it is if it is successful, then commit. If it is not, then roll back. Then comes explicit transaction. In this transaction mode, we need to explicitly start the transaction and use commit and rollback. So here, here you will have to explicitly start the transaction with the help of commands like begin transaction and then commit transaction and rollback transaction. Okay. And then one more mode is there called as a save point. Save point in transaction is used to roll back part of the transaction instead of a whole transaction, right? So we already discussed that, within a transaction, if you have a 500 DML statements, then and if something goes wrong around 400 statement, right? Then instead of rolling back everything, right, what we can do is we can have a save points in between and you can roll back only the part of the transaction. So you don't have to basically undo everything. Now this depends upon the requirement, the business requirement, business logic, and everything. But yeah, there is an option to save to create a save point and to roll back only until that save point. Okay, so let us do something in action. I have this Microsoft SQL Server environment open, and I have created this database. Let me create this table for you and give me a second. So table is created and now you can see we have, so let's start from employee. Okay, so basically you can see here there are currently three. Okay, first of all, auto commit transaction and auto rollback transaction. Okay, so let us see what I mean by this. So now for example, I'm inserting a value into an employee, a fourth value. Okay, and when I execute this statement, you can see one row affected. And if you select, if you query a table, then you can see this is already updated. It is already inserted. And now, even if if anything goes wrong with the database or if you have to restart the database, still this value would persist into the table called employee under the transaction database. So this is something called as an auto commit or auto rollback, right? So this is an auto commit and auto rollback. Similarly, let us see, the opposite example. So in my employee table, you can see age is an integer column and I'm trying to actually pass the varchar value. So as soon as I try to insert this value, it will provide me an error. Conversion failed when converting the value varchar is to 10 times. So now if I query this table, you can see nothing would get added. Okay, because already it is errored out. So basically no values or no record would be added into employee, and this would get rolled back. Okay, so this is something called as an auto commit and auto rollback. Now let us see how to work with an implicit transaction. So as I told you, you need to enable it first. So this is a statement, the set statement. You need to write set implicit transaction on. Okay, so as soon as you do this, all the DML statement, you don't have to specifically write begin transaction, something like that. Okay, so, as and when DML statement happens, it will actually uh, begin a transaction implicitly. But as I told you, that you will have to do a commit or rollback depending upon the outcome. Okay, so let me start this. So now the transaction is actually started. Now you can see here what I have done is update employee set age is equal to is equal to 40 where employee age is equal to 1. So from my employee 1, I'm putting my age as 40. Okay, and I would show you first of all the positive case. Okay, and let us see how does this gets updated and what data we are getting. So when I execute this, now you can see here I have queried the table, okay, mode of the transaction with the help of this @@ options. So it is saying that implicit transaction mode is on, and now you can see here select @count, right? So first of all, when before commit run, when we execute this statement, it is showing me that there is one open transaction. Then I make a commit run, and when I then again I query this variable, then it is showing that open transaction is 0. So which means what? That when this statement with the help of implicit transaction, when this statement got executed, SQL Server actually started the transaction, okay, and hence we are getting the value 1 on this level. And when we commit run, actually it has decreased one transaction. So it is, and hence it is showing open transaction 1 at this level and open transaction 0 at this level. Okay, right? So this is something called as an implicit transaction where you will have to commit this value. Okay, let me off this. Okay, now let us come to explicit transaction. Okay, let me first check. So there are 4 rows currently. So in explicit transaction, you will have to use the keyword as begin tran, right? And when you want to commit the records, you will have to use commit tran. Similarly for rollback, you will have to use a rollback tran. Okay, so here now for employee ID, currently age is 40. Okay, so I'm actually explicitly starting the transaction. I would do some DML operation and then I would commit tran or I would commit the record. Okay, let us see how does this look like. So now you can see when I started the begin tran at this level, it given me open transaction as 1. Then I committed the record, and then on this level, after immediately after that, it is showing me open transaction 0, which means what? After commit tran, the transaction count has been decreased, and you can see here that my age of an employee for first record has been changed to 35. Let us see the negative, the rollback example here. The same thing is happening. Begin tran. Now here for this record, I'm again putting back the age as 40. Okay, but here instead of after updation, instead of committing the transaction, I am actually rolling back it, canceling that. Okay, so let us execute this. Again the same thing 1 and 0, and now if you will check employee table, you can see it is still 35. It is not converted to 40 because we actually rolled back that transaction. Okay, so this was an example of an explicit, how to write an explicit transaction, that is begin tran with begin tran and commit tran and rollback tran. Okay, so now let us see what are save points. Okay, so now here currently we have 4 records, 1 2 3 4. Okay, now I'm adding 5 and 6. Now you can see here I have created a transaction. I am inserting one record employee into 5, saving a transaction. Now I am saving this, right? I am saving, this is where I am creating a save point. Then after I'm deleting employee ID 3, that is I'm deleting this record. And then I'm again inserting one record called 6. Okay. At that point of time, we would see once this happens, we would see what is the status of select star from employee. We would see what is the status of employee, and then I'm rolling back until insert statement. So I have actually inserted, I have created a save point insert statement. So I'm rolling everything until this save point, and then I am actually committing. Rest of the thing I am committing, and then let us see what is the status of select star from employee. Okay, so just remember that before save point, we are actually adding one record 5. After save point, we are deleting this record and adding one record 6. Okay, let us see how does this work. So now you can see there are two select statement. One is here in which we have added 5. So the record 5 was added. Okay, right? And also 3 was deleted. So you can see here 3 is not there, and even record 6 was also added. So this was also added, save point 0. Okay, now after that I roll back this transaction until insert statement. So ideally these two should go away, and hence what has happened, it has reversed that. So it has removed this record. It has again uh, taken back the deleted record employee ID 3, and then we had the commit. So this record ideally should get committed. Okay, and hence we can see the record 5. So which means what? When we roll back this statement until this save point, actually it reversed these two DML statement, but after that, when we actually executed commit statement, it committed this record, and hence before rollback it is showing me the full, all the records, all the DML statements. But after rollback and after commit, you can see here exactly that only 5 records are there. Hope you have understood this save point. This is very important, right? Ideally, it is very simple that when you provide a save point, now, all the DM, when you roll back until that save point, so all the DML statement after that save point and until next either rollback or commit or until next save point, everything would get removed or reversed. Not removed, but I would say reversed. Okay. So this was around the save point. Now, there is one more thing called as a nested transaction. So what is nested transaction? Nested transaction is nothing but a transaction within a transaction. So you can have such transactions, a multiple small transaction, a big transaction. Within that you can have a small transaction. Ideally it doesn't affect much. I would show you by an example, but yeah, you can still have that. So what is a nested transaction here? Again the same thing. Let me show you. So we have now 5 records here. Okay. So you can see here, I'm beginning the transaction T1, then insert into employee value 6. Okay. Then I'm again starting a transaction T2. Then I'm inserting a value, a record into employee with record 7. So 6 with transaction T1, 7 with transaction T2. I'm committing transaction T2 and I'm committing transaction T1 also. Okay. So let us see how does this work. Yep, everything we got success. And if I show you the table, then you can see both the records are actually added. Okay, so this is very simple because it is a success story. Okay, but let me show you the unsuccessful story here. Now I'm deleting both this record again and I'm trying to insert it again. Now in this case you can see here I'm starting a transaction T1, inserting a record into employee, starting a transaction T2, inserting a record into employee, committing transaction T2 here. So ideally this should get committed, and then I'm rolling back the transaction T1. Okay, that is the main transaction or the main transaction or the master transaction. Right. So child transaction I'm committing, but master transaction I'm rolling back. So let us see what happens here. I'm executing this again, one row affected, and let us see from select star from employee what we get. Oh, it doesn't inserted anything. Why? right? So this is with the nested transaction that ideally whatever you do basically doesn't make much difference. So whatever you do with the inner transaction, right? Everything is depending upon the main transaction that is a T1. So basically even we had committed this value, but as this transaction was within the main transaction, as soon as you roll back this transaction, everything would get reversed between the T1. So my major transaction is what? Begin transaction T1 and rollback transaction T1. So whatever inside this, so whatever inside this has been done would be rolled back, right? So ideally there is not much, uh, you know, difference of or doesn't make any difference for the smaller transaction. But yes, there is a provision and you can actually basically, do this. Okay. So this was related to transaction, guys. Hope you have understood. And as usual, I would actually suggest you to do more practice on the transaction, right? And let me know if you get stuck somewhere and if you need my help. I would surely, more than happy to help you out to understand this transaction in better way. This was really a basic thing, right? And yeah, that's it for today. Please don't forget to subscribe my channel and press a like button, press a bell icon so that you will keep getting a notification whenever I upload such videos related to Microsoft SQL Server and Postgres SQL Server. Okay, so thanks a lot, guys, for watching this video. Meet you next time with next video. Till then, bye and take care.